I was driving back from the vet on a Tuesday afternoon when I looked up and saw my dog's face on a billboard. Not a small sign. A full commercial billboard on Route 9, right outside the shopping plaza near my apartment. 12 feet of fluffy Bernese mountain dog, a branded bandana around his neck, looking absolutely majestic and completely unaware that he'd been turned into an advertisement without my knowledge or permission. I pulled over. I sat in my car for 5 full minutes staring at my steering wheel. Let me tell you about Beaumont. Beau is a 3-year-old male Bernese mountain dog. Full registered name, Beaumont's Royal Standard of Halcyon Ridge, because that's just what you do when you buy from a reputable breeder with a 14-page contract. He weighs 94 pounds and is absolutely convinced he's a lap dog. Every morning at 6:15, without fail, he walks to my side of the bed and puts one paw on the mattress, just one, like he's asking permission. I say, okay, and he hauls himself up and collapses across my legs, and we stay like that for about 20 minutes before I have to get up. I got Beau right after my divorce was finalized, 3 years ago March. My ex-wife got the house. I got a studio apartment, a truck that needed new brakes, and about 4 months of sleeping, maybe 3 hours a night. My buddy Marcus told me to get a dog. I said I wasn't ready. He said the dog didn't care if I was ready. He was right. I drove 4 hours to a breeder in upstate New York, put down $3,200, and came home with this enormous fluffy creature who immediately chewed through one of my good leather belts and looked completely unbothered about it. Beau fixed me. He gave me a reason to keep a schedule. Morning walk, evening walk, training sessions on Tuesdays and Thursdays at a facility about 8 miles from my apartment. I got serious about it. We started doing AKC confirmation shows about 1.5 years ago. Beau has 4 ribbons and 2 placements. He's not a champion yet, but he could be. His structure is excellent. Everyone at the shows says so. That background matters because what happened next matters a lot more once you understand that Beau isn't just a pet. He's a registered pedigreed dog with papers, with show history, with a specific care protocol. His coat gets conditioned twice a week. He eats a precise diet, no table food, no treats outside of training. His weight is managed. These aren't me being precious. These are the actual requirements for keeping a show dog in show condition. Now let me tell you about Daniela. Daniela is 26, lives 2 floors below me in my building, works part-time at a yoga studio, and does freelance pet sitting on the side. I've known her about 1.5 years. She's pleasant, good energy. She was always stopping me in the hallway to fuss over Beau, and Beau liked her well enough, which with a Bernese mountain dog actually means something because they don't warm up to just anybody. She'd watched him twice before this whole situation. Once when I had a work conference in Chicago for 4 days, once when I flew to my cousin's wedding in Florida. Both times went fine. She sent updates, photos. He came back clean and calm. I paid her $65 a day and left her a detailed printed care sheet. That care sheet is important. 2 pages. Food schedule, walking route, vet's number, emergency instructions, grooming notes. And at the very top in bold, Beaumont is a registered show dog. Please do not take him to dog parks, pet stores, or any public events where he could be exposed to unvetted dogs or environmental stressors. Keep to routine as closely as possible. She had those 2 pages in her hands. She read them. I know she read them because she nodded at the bolded line when I walked her through it. The first warning sign came about 6 months before the billboard. I told Daniela that Beau was running a little heavy and I was cutting back half a cup at dinner. She said that made sense. The next time she watched him, just 2 nights while I handled a work emergency in Boston, Beau came back with his stomach off for 2 days. I asked if she'd given him anything outside his diet. She got this little smile and said she'd given him just a tiny bit of chicken because he seemed sad. I explained again, managed diet, coat, and weight, stick to the sheet. She apologized, said of course, I let it go. Then there was the Instagram thing. A friend of mine spotted it. Daniela had a page for her pet sitting business, which is totally normal, but she'd been posting photos of Beau, not just 1 or 2 casual snaps, but multiple posts with his full registered show name in the captions. She was tagging dog brands, tagging grooming product companies, using him to build her business's following without asking me once. By the time I saw it, the posts each had 300 to 400 likes. I went down to her apartment, calmly. I told her I needed her to remove anything with his registered name and check with me before posting him at all because I was careful about his public image on the show circuit. She got a little defensive, said she didn't think it was a big deal, said he was just a dog and people liked the photos. But she took the posts down eventually after I asked twice, apologized. I said thank you and went upstairs. I should have stopped using her after that. I know that now. But she was convenient, she was in my building, Bo liked her, and what she'd done seemed misguided rather than malicious. So 6 weeks later, I booked her for 4 days in October. I had to drive out to Ohio for a site inspection that got extended. I'm a structural engineer. I dropped Bo off with Daniela on a Thursday afternoon, went through the care sheet with her again in person, reminded her specifically that he needed to stay away from strange animals and public events during show season. She nodded at everything. She waved me off with, "We're going to have so much fun." Thursday through Sunday, I was in Ohio. Friday evening, I got one photo of Bo on her couch looking comfortable. Saturday, nothing. I texted her Saturday afternoon. She said everything was great and sent a blurry photo of him in what looked like a hallway. I didn't think much of it. I got home Sunday around 4, picked Bo up and brought him upstairs. He seemed okay on the surface, happy to see me. But when I got him under good light, something was wrong with his coat on his right shoulder, a patch about 4 inches across where the fur was matted and slightly discolored. Something had been on it, a product, heavy, waxy residue that hadn't fully brushed out. I checked his paws. The pads on his left front paw were tender. He flinched when I pressed the center. Not a serious injury, but sensitivity that wasn't there on Thursday. And he was about 1.5 pounds heavier than when I dropped him off, which meant someone had been significantly overfeeding him for 4 days. I texted Daniela, asked what had happened to his coat and why his paw was tender. She texted back that they'd had a really fun day Saturday and he might have gotten a little tired from playing. I asked what kind of playing. She said she'd taken him somewhere with friends. I called her. She picked up and her voice had that particular quality of someone who knows they're caught but hasn't decided how much to admit. I asked directly where she had taken Bo on Saturday. Long pause. Then she said it was just a fun outdoor event with dogs. I asked what event. Another pause. Then she said it was a small photo shoot thing a friend of hers had organized for a pet lifestyle brand called Fetch & Co. I went completely cold. I asked her to say that again, slower. She repeated it. A brand photo shoot for Fetch & Co. with my dog without asking me. I asked if she had signed anything on my behalf. She said just a quick release form because the photographer needed it. She said she figured it was fine because she was his caretaker that weekend. She figured it was fine. I told her I'd call her back and hung up. I opened my laptop and looked up Fetch & Co. mid-size pet lifestyle brand, leashes, harnesses, grooming products. I found their social media, searched through the posts, and there he was, my dog, my registered pedigreed competition show Bernese Mountain Dog, 3 separate posts, looking directly into the camera wearing a Fetch & Co. branded bandana and a Fetch & Co. harness he'd never worn before, covered in what was clearly their grooming spray, which explained the residue. They'd styled him. Put their products on him. Posted him to their page of over 40,000 followers with captions calling him a furry brand ambassador. The posts had been up since Saturday evening. Each one had thousands of likes. One had been reshared by a dog lifestyle account with another 60,000 followers. And Daniela had signed a photo release, authorizing commercial use of Bo's image as his temporary guardian. I called Marcus that night. He's a paralegal, and I needed someone to talk me down before I did something rash. He did not talk me down. He said, "Man, she signed a commercial release for your dog without your consent. That's not nothing." Monday morning, 7:15, I knocked on Daniela's door. She opened it in a hoodie, looking nervous. I sat down at her kitchen table with my phone and walked her through it. Screenshots of every Fetch & Co. post. Photo of Bo's coat. Screenshots of her old Instagram posts. Here's what she told me. Her friend Priya runs a small talent coordination operation. She connects brands with people and animals for shoots. Priya had called Daniela on Friday night last minute, asking if she had any photogenic dogs she was currently sitting. Fetch & Co. needed dogs for a product shoot the next morning. Daniela said yes, absolutely, she had a beautiful Bernese. Show up at this address at 10 a.m. Saturday. It'll take a few hours. There's a talent fee. I stopped her right there. I asked about the talent fee. She went quiet. I asked again. She said yes, Priya had arranged $400 for use of the dog for the day. I asked where that money was. She said it had gone to Priya's coordination fee and she'd kept the rest. When I pushed on what the rest was, she said $250. $250. She made $250 off my dog, put unauthorized products on him, let strangers handle and photograph him, signed a commercial release she had zero authority to sign, and said nothing to me. She started explaining that Bo had a great time, that everyone loved him, that it was just a few photos. I said, Daniela, stop. You used my dog commercially without my permission and signed legal paperwork you had no right to sign. She said she was sorry, said she didn't realize it was a problem. I looked at her across that table, half-empty coffee mug in front of her, hands folded like she was bracing for something, and something settled in me. Not rage, just clarity. You had my care sheet, I said. 2 pages. The first sentence in bold told you not to take him to public events. You read it and took him anyway to a commercial shoot, and you signed his rights away for $250. She looked down at her mug, didn't say anything. I told her I'd be in touch and left. That afternoon I found the billboard, pulled over, and stared at my steering wheel for 5 minutes. Then I called an attorney, not Marcus, an actual attorney. I found someone who handles entertainment and intellectual property law and had worked pet-related commercial cases. Her name is Veronica. Within the first 10 minutes of our call, she said exactly what I needed to hear. A petsitter cannot sign a commercial release on behalf of a dog's owner. Full stop. Veronica laid out several avenues. Unauthorized commercial use of Bo's image. A third party profiting from my property. Potential claims against Fetch & Co. for using an image obtained through a fraudulent release. Daniela acting entirely outside any reasonable scope of a temporary caretaker role. I spent the rest of that week building the file. AKC registration papers, microchip documentation, every vet record with Bo's registered name, printed copy of the care sheet with the bolded instruction, screenshots of every Fetch & Co. post, every reshare, every engagement metric I could capture. The vet wrote a detailed note about the paw abrasion and coat contamination. The office visit alone was $215. My trainer, Kim, who had been working with Bo and me for over a year, documented that the grooming product Fetch & Co. had used was not approved for Bernese mountain dogs with his coat type, and had the potential to cause long-term follicle irritation if not fully removed. That went into the file too. Then the neighbors got involved. Daniela had apparently told people in the building what was happening. By Wednesday, I was getting texts from Carla on the 4th floor, who I'd always been friendly with, saying she hoped I wasn't going to be too harsh on Daniela, who was just trying to do something fun. A guy named Greg from the 2nd floor, someone I barely knew, sent me an actual voice memo saying I seemed like I was going after a young woman over dog photos, and that was pretty messed up. I didn't respond to Greg. I texted Carla one line. She signed legal paperwork for my dog, put him in a paid commercial shoot, and kept the money. This isn't about photos. Carla went quiet. Then Daniela's older sister, Renata, called me. I didn't know Renata. Daniela had given her my number. Renata launched straight into it. Daniela was young and naive, didn't understand what she'd done wrong. I was going to ruin her life over a dog photo. I should just accept an apology and move on. I said, Renata, this is between me and Daniela and her attorney if she gets one. Please don't call this number again. Renata told me I was being cruel. I ended the call. I won't pretend those calls didn't get under my skin. There is something particularly exhausting about being told you're the unreasonable one when you're sitting on a vet bill, a botched coat, a 12-foot billboard, and a signed release you never authorized. I talked it through with Marcus that night. He listened, refilled my glass, and said very calmly, "You're not ruining her life. You're holding her accountable for a decision she made as an adult." That helped more than he probably knows. Veronica sent a demand letter to both Daniela and Fetch & Co. the following Monday. To Daniela, return the $250 she'd earned, pay the $215 vet bill, and sign a formal acknowledgement that she had no legal authority to enter into agreements on behalf of my dog. To Fetch & Co. Immediate removal of all content featuring Bo from all platforms, a retroactive licensing fee for the unauthorized commercial use, and compensation for the potential harm to Bo's competitive standing from the Unauthorized Product Association. Fetch & Co. took everything down within 48 hours. Their legal team responded quickly and professionally. I'll give them that. They hadn't known the release was unauthorized. Their position was that they'd contracted through Priya's coordination company in good faith. Priya had represented that she had the authority to deliver those dogs. So Fetch & Co. cooperated fully, pulled all the content, and opened a settlement conversation. Priya, for her part, disappeared. Her coordination website went offline within 3 days of Veronica's letter going out. Not my problem. Daniela got her own attorney. Honestly, the smart move, and her attorney's letter described her as having acted without full understanding of the legal implications of the release document, and expressed willingness to cover the documented financial damages. The settlement took about 6 weeks. Daniela paid back the $250 plus the $215 vet bill. Fetch & Co. paid a licensing settlement that Veronica negotiated. I'm not putting the exact number out there, but it was meaningful. It accounted for the impressions those posts had received before removal and the commercial value of a registered show dog used in professional product photography. It covered every cent of my attorney's fees with money left over. Fetch & Co. also sent a formal written apology and updated their vendor contracts to require direct owner verification for any animal used in their campaigns. Veronica told me that was actually the bigger win in practical terms. It closes the exact loophole Priya had been exploiting. I also pulled Bo from the next show we'd been registered for. The timeline was too close to the incident. I wasn't confident in his coat, and I wasn't putting him in the ring if there was any chance the grooming contamination had affected his presentation. That was 4 months of preparation and a $300 entry fee I just ate. That loss didn't make it into the settlement. Too speculative to calculate, Veronica said, and I trusted her. It still stings. Daniela moved out of the building about 6 weeks after everything wrapped up. I heard she went back to stay with family for a while. I don't know what's happened since. I don't wish her badly. I do think she learned a very expensive lesson about the difference between I didn't think it was a big deal and it wasn't a big deal. Carla is normally friendly in the hallway again. Greg, I continue to have nothing to say to. Marcus got a very nice bottle of whiskey and a handwritten thank you note. Kim got a gift card to the supply store she buys her training equipment from. Veronica got her fees and a 5-star review on every platform I could find. Now here's where things stand. It's a Tuesday night in February. Bo is on the couch next to me. His coat is fully restored, 3 weeks of the proper conditioning routine to get it completely back. His paw healed within 10 days. He's eating right at his target weight. We went back to training in November and Kim said he looked better than ever. We have a show registered for April. I'm not nervous about it. Bo is ready. This morning, like every morning, he walked over to my side of the bed at 6:15 and put one paw on the mattress. Just one. Waiting. I said, okay, and he climbed up and settled across my legs, and we stayed there until 6:35 before I had to move. Nobody is signing paperwork for this dog except me. Nobody is putting products on him without my knowledge. Nobody is photographing him for commercial use without a conversation, a contract, and my signature on every page. I hired a new petsitter through a professional agency, one that carries its own liability insurance and has a background check process. Bo has met her twice. He hasn't fully warmed up yet because he's a burner and it takes time, but he let her give him a treat last week. That's a good sign. Some people thought I was overreacting because it was just a dog. But Bo isn't just a dog. He's a living thing I'm responsible for. He can't speak for himself. He can't read a release form. He can't say no. That's my job. That has always been my job, and I did it. So here's what I want to know from you. If you came home and found out your pet had been used in a commercial shoot without your knowledge, what would you have done? Drop it in the comments. I'm genuinely curious where people draw the line on this.